All right, welcome to episode number 2 of Missing the Mark Wrestling. I am your host, Jamie. With me this week again is my good buddy, Steve-O. Steve-O, welcome back again.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
I mean, if you're gonna just keep being on the show, that just makes you a co-host, right? So
I'm gonna be on. That's my goal.
okay,
I'm re-earning my keep.
You're re-earning your.
I'm paying my dues.
Your
again.
Co-host status. Yeah, I mean, you were on the old wrestling podcast with me. You're also
How many episodes did we do of that show?
The original Missing the Mark Wrestling podcast did 53 episodes, I think it was.
Okay, so
and that was
episode 55, baby.
No, we're episode. This is a whole different thing. We dropped the podcast off of it because it's a live stream, and we've got all sorts of things. So, but let's get some housekeeping stuff out of the way for those of you watching Missing the Mark Wrestling on Facebook. If you're already watching here, you know that. You can do Missing the Mark Wrestling on Instagram and YouTube as well. Hopefully very soon we are going to be streaming on YouTube as well at the same time, as well as the PKDK podcast feed. We are on all of those things. You can catch us on the podcast. Steve, were you able to find the podcast version of this?
I was able to find the podcast version. I don't go on Instagram enough to talk to you about that. Okay. I think my Instagram is just tied to my Facebook, and I just post on both. And looking forward to the YouTube one. I am thinking I'll get my own YouTube channel off the ground for nonsense pretty soon. So I'll tell you about that.
What kind of nonsense are you thinking?
Oh gosh. Anything from the stuff that I'm into that you're really not, like the action figures behind me, not Bert
figures,
back there. Comic books, all that stuff. I'm looking to deep dive into at some point in the near future. Okay. I've been wanting to do for a long time, but my life's crazy. Well, not really, but
I hear you, man.
I'm with it.
But we're here. We're talking about wrestling. This is episode number 2.
This is the time. I'm so excited. I
mean, we're a wrestling fan right now, right?
I think just from what I watched, it is the most must-see viewing that I've seen since I was a boy. And I mean, like a couple years ago, even we were doing the old podcast, I watched it every week, but if I missed it and watched it later or watched snippets, to me it felt like no big deal. Now it feels like appointment viewing, where if I'm working late on a Monday, I'm racing home. I'm putting on my Sling TV is on my phone. I'm watching it while driving. I shouldn't even be saying this.
No, you definitely shouldn't be saying that. I've done
that. I feel like we're at like can't miss territory, dude. And it's exciting. Even before, now we're on the road to WrestleMania. It really feels like there's a lot of, we got a little more clarity into what might be happening. Still a lot of questions, but I'm excited that they didn't go exactly as I thought in some ways.
And that's kind of cool, right? And I was listening to a couple other shows. I can't remember if it was Busted Open or Not Sam Wrestling or whatever. I'll give them their dues. I listen to a lot of wrestling content as well as watching it, obviously. But one thing they kind of talked about was, we're talking about the Elimination Chamber, right? It just happened the other day in Perth, Australia. But a lot of the things I think were predictable, but it was one of those things where you kind of hoped it was, right? You kind of almost got out of it what you were kind of hoping to get out of it. And I think to your point, they answered a lot of questions. Yes, there's still a lot out there. We're 5-6 weeks away at this point from WrestleMania, 5 weeks, I think.
40 days, or what was 40 days as of Monday?
40 days. A lot of questions were answered, though, and that's pretty awesome.
I think to your point about it being about the predictability factor, I agree with it. But what was nice is that now I had the show totally spoiled for me, because I wasn't able to get up at 5:30 and watch it live, and I'm very big on. Usually, I'm big on if I get it spoiled for me, it ruins the whole experience. I have to not know. But actually, in this case, I had the whole thing spoiled. I made the mistake of going on Facebook for 1 second, and of course, the first thing was every result possible. Right there in the first little viewing before I can even think about it. And even though even though it got spoiled for me, I still had a good time watching how they got there. And I still actually really enjoyed it. Like, and normally I don't when I know exactly what's going to happen.
I agree with you, man. It was one of those things where, I mean, first off, I wasn't going to get up at 5 a.m. Second of all, my wife and I were going away for the night, which is a treat that we get to have on a very rare occasion. So I didn't watch it live either. But again, to your point, I was also on social media. I saw what happened. I saw some of the highlights, but that did not deter me from wanting to watch it. You know what I mean? So it was like I couldn't wait to watch it. Like I was every spare moment I got, I was watching pieces of Elimination Chamber just to kind of see how things got to where they were. I mean, let's talk about it a little bit, right? So I love that not only did WWE highlight some of their wrestlers from that country, including Indy Hartwell, you've got Grayson Waller, you had Mommy, as it were. But I thought it was kind of cool that not only did you take the opportunity to highlight the people that were from Australia, but those matches meant something too. I mean, you had the Kabuki Warriors who took on Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, right? It was a great showcase to have Indy Hartwell in her home country, but they put on a hell of a match too.
Yeah, that was a solid match. I caught the end of that one. I didn't actually see the whole kit and caboodle. But a good match, and I think I like when I kind of like those pre-show matches to give you someone who you don't necessarily see every week. Like, I think it's a good opportunity with her being from the same country. No idea how close she is to Perth. I don't know Australia geography to the life of me. But
it's a massive country, but I think only like a small portion of it is inhabited.
Sure. Yeah.
I could be wrong. This is not a geometry show. This is a pro wrestling show.
From what I've been reading of my 80s X-Men comics, it's very uninhabited. At least it was back in 1988 when the X-Men lived there. But
I love that you take your geography cues from X-Men.
I learn more about subjects from X-Men than I do actual school sometimes. That's
hilarious.
But that was a cool match. I mean, what can you say?
Let's get right into the chamber.
Get into
let's get into the pay-per-view itself, right? Because I think everything that went into Monday Night Raw completely tied into what we saw at Elimination Chamber.
Kind of wild. It was a 4-match show. Kind of wild. It was
right.
A 4-match show, but it took. You would think that would be done in 2.5 hours, but that was like a 3.5 hour. I know the chamber matches are longer and they're much more involved.
They're long, but I wasn't bored either. I mean, you look at the Becky Lynch, winning the chamber. I mean, to your point, I think you and Johnny called it last week. It was fairly predictable that was going to happen. However, again, it's how you got there, right? I think, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, and I don't know how much you watched her in NXT, but Tiffany Stratton was the star of the show.
That was my number 1, 2, and 3 point. That was her match. Star making moment. You don't see much of it, but I didn't see as much of her from NXT. What I did see was really good, and she's one of those people that jumps off the screen at you, and and when you have that perfect marriage of the character work is awesome, the in-ring skill is great, and there's a presence and there's an X factor there. Yeah, you got a star, and she took over the match effortlessly.
Well, what's funny too is that she's not from this world. I don't think she grew up a fan. She was a U.S. Gymnast, and like she's just taken to it. You think about, and I don't want to get this comparison yet, but I'm going to throw it out there as just a kind of a going that way type thing. It reminds me a lot of Kurt Angle, like how quickly somebody from outside of this world took to WWE, and the progress that she's made in the last couple of years has just been incredible. Now, to your point, I think she shined a lot in the match, and I think a lot of that match was designed to allow her to do such a thing. But still, it being allowed to do that sort of thing, but then actually grabbing the bull by the horns and really showcasing what you've got is a completely different level. And I think
give her flowers for sure. It was set up for her to show off a little bit. When you come in third in a match with the likes of Naomi and Becky Lynch, They're giving you some time to shine, but
There's heavy
you have
hitters in there, man. I mean, you had Bianca
you got
Belair,
to
you
do
had
it.
Liv Morgan, Naomi, you Raquel Rodriguez, like Becky Lynch, and for you to be able to shine amongst all of those names, like that's huge for her.
I thought you stood head and shoulders above them, with the exception
Agreed.
of maybe Bianca Belair to a degree. I thought she was I thought she was definitely the standout. And I thought she pretty well eclipsed everybody. I mean, they were booing when she got eliminated.
Right.
There was chaos when she got knocked out of the match.
And I think
She was
that's going to
incredible.
be a short-lived thing because I think it's just an enamored thing, and I think she's going to be. I very much liken her to like Chelsea Green, where her character work is just so good and so over the top that even if you start to like her, she's going to do something that's going to make you hate her and play that heel so freaking well. Like I can't. I think she's got big money written all over her as long as she keeps going like this. That's awesome.
If you take your initial comp of Kurt Angle, which I wouldn't have thought of until you mentioned, but I'll roll it like it. Additional comp. What were the two biggest things about both of those folks? Obviously, they're come from outside Olympian background. What's the big things? They got the character work and the personality right off the bat to a level which
Right,
you can't teach
time,
that. You either have it or you don't. Obviously, they're all going to be from that world. They're going to be freakish athletes. I don't have a problem with that translating, but the only way folks like that will translate is if they're just, and it's got to be, you got to be born for it. I think to a degree. Excited to see it.
I think there's that too, but then you got to think about it too, and we won't go too much farther into this, but like all the stuff that's happening down in NXT, being ran by Shawn Michaels and the coaching staff that's down there. I mean, just all of that is absolutely clicking on a different level to the point where like things like this are just, I think some of these people that have that natural ability, like you said, and they have it in them, it's being brought out of them a lot faster. Look at Braun Breaker. That guy's a stud, man, but he's developed and become more of a character so much faster than, and I mean, I guess, it's in his blood, but it's just a testament to what's going on down there in NXT.
It's interesting that it's coming from Shawn Michaels because he's someone you would think about. There's always that kind of statement that the most natural best athletes in any field are going to have a tougher time coaching people. Like in NHL, Wayne Gretzky was a coach and he was not great, and there's an idea that natural greatness, those folks just can't teach what comes so naturally to them. But somehow Shawn Michaels has figured it out. I'm not sure if he would have been able to do it originally, but he's figuring it out, and he may be the best asset that WWE has backstage right now. The way he's getting people geared up to go.
I don't know how I feel about this, but I think we just maybe go down the card here with Elimination Chamber. And then I think a lot of that comes to culmination when we start talking about Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
How
do you feel about Becky winning? How do you feel about Becky winning? I know you weren't really going for it last week, but
it's tough because, like, to me, and I can't remember if it was Tim or Jonathan, whoever was on there that last week said, it's just Becky's like meh, and to me, nothing's ever going to take away what Becky's done because she's by far one of the top, women performers of all time. And the things that she's done and the first that she's been a part of, like, you'll never take that away. But to me, I think the evolution of the way she is now, like, she's kind of the man. She's kind of, happy-go-lucky. I want that badass, the man version of that where, you likened her to, I think last time, to Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Where she wasn't a heel. She wasn't a baby face. Like, she was just Becky and she was the man. And, like, I want to see more of that instead of the over the top. And I don't know if it's because, her and Seth are both kind of doing that with the over the top, thing. But, like, I'm not into Becky right now. And I think, there's some other things that could have happened. I mean, to me, Bianca Belair is kind of boring. Not to take anything away from her. She's a great athlete. I just think from a personality standpoint, like, nothing has changed with her. And I think somebody like Liv Morgan, could have been a great in that spot. Now you got to think about it on the flip side too, right? Anybody you're going to throw into that spot has to go up against Rhea Ripley. And
who's the biggest thing they've got on that side?
So let me ask you this question too, because obviously, and we'll skip around a little bit. But Rhea Ripley defeated Nia Jax to retain her Women's World Championship. Do you think WWE almost blew their spot in the sense that Nia Jax is probably the most viable opponent at this time, anyway, for Rhea Ripley?
No, because I don't think she's the most viable personally. I don't know. I just still have. I don't know. There's something about Nia Jax that. I mean, they do good. They do a good job building her up, but I've seen this song and dance before where it never translates. It never goes all the way. I mean, the most memorable things about Nia Jax that, if you asked me about her in a bubble, I would say her punching Becky in the mouth and launching her superstardom. Her losing her job, I think, once or maybe even twice, and the one time she got slammed in the ring apron and yelled "my hole."
That's true.
Those are the things that stick out. So I don't even think she should have been in the main event. I mean, she had to be because it was Rhea's home country. I get it, but
yeah,
I don't think she's the most viable. I think, even despite of everything you said, Becky Lynch right now is the most viable because she has that star power. She has history being a marquee player, and to be frank with you, to me, there's a possibility this might be the last chance to do it. You got to figure. I mean, they talk about it a lot. Her and Seth Rollins have a small girl about 3. At some level, I mean, you can't. I don't know how long they want to raise her in the carnival world of wrestling. It's almost like being raised in the circus. You know what I mean? At some point, I would imagine one of them has to kind of take a step back to some degree. But what do I know? It's their business, and this might be the chance to do it. It's a match that, even though it's been done before, it feels fresh. It feels like it's a first-time match, just because when Rhea fought Becky last time, she wasn't even close to what she is now, which is, to me, the biggest star in the division. So you almost have the 2 past and present biggest stars of this division in a WrestleMania match. How could you go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, there's that point of view as well, right? And I think, but I was gonna go down the card completely at this point, but then if you think about it, like, what Nia Jax did on Raw, where she ended up coming out and interfering and she attacked Becky and all that stuff too. Are they setting up for a triple threat, or like where does Nia Jax go from here? Because they built her up to be this monster heel, which I'm glad that they're finally doing that, because, and to your point, I wasn't a huge fan of Nia Jax either, and she's got a few moments here and there, but like, to me, it was her work rate was never over the top, and there was always that stigma about her that she's out there injuring people, right? But to me, I think this is the best work she's done. And I don't think by her losing this match, do you kill that momentum, or just how do you further that?
I don't think you kill it, because at some point, sometimes, look, as much as you hate to say it, sometimes you got to build somebody up so they can get vanquished by the person you're really trying to build up. It's an unfortunate part of the business that sometimes it was famous in the John Cena era, and too much in that era where people were built up just to put him over.
Right.
Kudos to her for taking the opportunity. And again, I'll give her credit, even though I'm not a fan. This is maybe the best match I've seen her have. A totally serviceable main event. Nothing, super memorable, but nothing, bad or impactful. It was a perfectly fine main event. And I think it's good to talk about the chamber match and this match together, because they lead to the same WrestleMania match. I don't see Nia ending up in a triple threat match for her. She'll be involved. She'll be a thorn. She's uniquely set up to be a thorn on the side to both champion and challenger, where she's against both of them, right? She has history with both. So she can kind of be an interesting wild card where she causes trouble. Not everyone makes it on the card as a wrestler per se. Is that fair to her? Maybe not, but we'll see.
I mean, Rhea's a star. Like, she's going to outshine both of them, I think, no matter what. And I mean, she's really coming into that territory where, she might be a part of this heel faction right now, but like she's so on the babyface side of things too. So like I think she's such in that in between, but she's playing it so freaking well, and she's just a dominant, like sick athlete.
It's her division as long as she wants it, and because she's able to thread the needle between babyface and heel, that it's cool because whoever you want to put it up against her, you could do it. You could have anyone challenge her, and it'll be viable and be a good match. Yeah, I mean it's her division as long as she wants it. I'm excited for Becky versus Rhea. I think it'll be a good match. I can see why people would be kind of meh on Becky because one of those reasons we're all kind of meh on Becky and everyone else is that I feel some of the newer crop of women's talent has almost started to eclipse the folks that brought us to the dance from the women's revolution back in almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah,
it just feels like, yeah.
That's one of my notes I had for later on too, is just how, and I think Johnny disagreed with me last week, but just how much depth there is right now to the women's roster. Like the fact that you can legitimately have A, enough talent, but B, really talented people to be able to build the depth on that roster, to be able to form tag teams and have rivalries that have nothing to do with titles. I think is, again, a testament to what they're kind of building there as far as the women's division goes. But, and you think about that too, man, like not only is this, huge depth as far as the women's division goes, but I'm looking at my notes here and you're also doing this without Jade Cargill right now, who is still in the looming, making that big splash, right? You're doing it with Carmella, who's out on a maternity leave. You got Sonya Deville, who was hurt, and she's a talent on her own. Alexa Bliss is still out, and Charlotte's hurt. Like, those are massive players, and we're talking about how great this women's division is right now. And there's just a handful of people right there that aren't even on the roster at this current moment in time.
Yeah, it's to their credit, and you think about it. We were just talking about is Nia get on WrestleMania. The unfortunate thing is as much depth as they're starting to get, you can make a case of who else is going to miss the show. I think a lot of them don't have a clear path or a clear spot unless you do a tag team, like an 8-man tag team, or an 8-person tag, like the four corners tag match they always do and stuff like that.
Or some sort of battle royal or something like that.
But. Yeah, something. But it's interesting that they have built it up. I think when people say I'll go against you on depth, it's not depth of talent. I think they just need more for these girls to do. Besides,
yeah,
I would love a mid-card women's title. Some equivalent to the Intercontinental title for them. I love titles. I would have 100 titles if I could.
See, I'm anti more titles because the more titles you have, the less they mean, and that's always been my stance on it, and that's why, like, even with the tag titles right now with the men's division, like, please just get one set of titles. Like, I'm sick of watching them carry around 2 sets of titles. Like, you keep talking about it. Like, I think the women's tag team titles and the men's tag team titles should remain as one single title that you've got to go on both shows and defend because traditionally anyway, the depth of how many tag teams that you have is slim, right? We're starting to see a lot more of it, especially on the women's side. But man, there's so many stars right now that just it's crazy. And you think about it too, right? There's a handful or a couple of women's division stars that aren't even competing necessarily in the women's division right now. You've got B-Fab with Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, and then you've got Scarlett over with what's the New Testament, right? Or not New Testament, sorry, the Final Testament. With Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross there. So, like, playing more valet type stuff when we know B-Fab can go. Scarlett has shown that she can do it when she's put in that situation. So, like, it's in depth, man.
I would first of all, I would love if the group was called New Testament instead. Just make it a big vehicle for Jesus to make his comeback. You know what I mean? He can be the Ric Flair of the group. But no, I mean, I agree with you on the women's side. There's just so many, and we could add a whole nother show for them if we wanted to go that far. I disagree on the tag team titles. I would love them to split those tag team titles. Just because I think there's enough tag teams where there's people who aren't getting a sniff. I would love
but is
a
there
Raw and a SmackDown again.
Yeah, but is there enough like actual tag teams, not like single stars that aren't doing anything thrown together tag teams? I'm talking like legit tag teams to be able to hold that roster up on both shows. I don't think there is. I think there's enough to merit between the two shows having one set of titles that travels. But like I'm talking like legit tag teams. I mean, you think about like start naming tag teams off the top of your head, right? You've got the New Day, you've got now the New Catch Republic, which we'll talk about in a minute here. You've got
Imperium.
Yeah. What's
DIY?
DIY. What's Gable and Otis? Alpha Academy.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, look,
you've got the Authors of Pain.
That's my point right there.
Yeah, you've got
these guys all deserve something to compete over. And I'm not against them putting team guys together that aren't doing anything. Look, the last champions we've had have been Finn Balor and Damian Priest, traditionally singles guys. Their group is different. KO and Sammy, traditionally singles guys. In the middle was Cody and Jay. And so a real tag team hasn't had those belts in quite some time since the Usos had them.
That's true.
It's been a year. So, and the Usos are the only team that had them for a long time before that. So all these tag teams you're listing, because there's only been one set of belts, haven't been able to do anything. So I think that's a reason right there. And two, the teams have had those belts have never meant more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Split the belts.
I
approved by both.
No.
All right, we'll see.
I disagree. I say let's keep it. Let's update the look of them, and let's stop with the carrying around two sets of titles.
I think update the look is good. I'm getting tired of those Spartan helmets on there. Yeah, I agree.
I don't even mind that, but like the red and the blue we're kind of over that at that point. Like, give me some black strap titles, and let's go back to, maybe even something similar like the women's tag team titles. We're all about parity, right, with the titles right now. So why not just make the men's title look more like the women's titles, only with black and bigger, right?
I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, please do. With that, let's transition into the men's. Actually, no, let's go right into Judgment Day defeated New Catch Republic, which is Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. I kind of missed their old name. What is it, British Strong Style or something like that? Man, that was a hell of a match. I just love the tag team division right now. We were just talking about it, but I love the tag team division right now.
You had a match where you gave ample opportunity for all three members of Judgment Day out there. I'll include Dominic to get massive heat. All three of them were. I mean, obviously Dom is in a world of his own for getting heat, but the other two had their moments there. So I think that's a testament to those guys. And I'll give credit where it's due for the challengers who were kind of folks who haven't followed NXT, kind of unknown. I mean, Pete Dunne was been Butch and with Sheamus and all them and so he's setting on his own. Tyler Bate, kind of newer to the main roster. So they played their parts pretty well. I thought it was a really good match. I mean, you have three really talented guys. Pete Dunne always looks super effective that's the bending of the fingers and stuff always jumps out at you, right? How do they do that? It hurt me doing this. I can't move.
Somebody was saying, I thought I read online, like he legitimately hurt Finn Balor because he did have the thing, taped up. But I mean, that could be kayfabe as well. But I mean, overall, you think about the match and there's, kind of a. I lost my train of thought, but like they put on such a good match, the New Catch Republic. I mean, they also had a great match with DIY on, or was it SmackDown or Raw? I can't remember which show it was, but just great freaking matches right now out of the tag team division. I'm loving DIY. I wish they could get a little bit more of a push, but they are getting an opportunity to shine. So I guess there's that, right?
They've got an interesting thing going with with the Miz and R-Truth, which I thought would have maybe led to them getting on WrestleMania against the Judgment Day. It looks like that may not be happening the way I thought. But with both of those teams, DIY and Dunn and Bate, I mean, look, you got opportunities like this don't come often. You when you get your shot, you got to make the most out of it. And I thought that Pete Dunne and Bate did a better job and stood out with what they, and I think they'll do well for it and keep a better profile. If you go back to like when the Creed brothers fought Finn and Damien, they didn't jump out to me as much. So I thought, in this case, I thought that the new catch could serve himself well. I thought, again, like you said, rock solid match. Enjoyed it. Long match, and that's really wasn't a bad thing. Like I could have gone a little bit longer. I would have been fine.
Isn't that funny how we think about that now, right? Because there was a period of time, not in the distant past, where you're talking like 3 to 5 minute matches most of the time. Now, even on Raw and SmackDown, you're getting multi-segment matches. People are getting time, and I know it's a Triple H thing, but the funny thing is not only are they getting time, but there's so much story woven in, and that leads me right exactly to the men's chamber. How much storytelling came out of that match? I mean, you're talking the only
three matches right out of it.
Right. The only one
WrestleMania matches out of it.
The only one that didn't have a story coming out of it was Bobby Lashley, but he has a story going already with the Street Profits and the Final Testament. And I think that's going to be the WrestleMania match, right? It's going to be the Final Testament against Lashley and the Street Profits. I have to think.
I think that'll get them on the show. It may not, it may not go that long. I think it more depends on if we can have a situation where Karrion Kross can maintain any interest in what he's doing, because notoriously he just hasn't been able to hold.
He's so talented, and I just don't get it. I just don't get why he's not as over as he should be. I don't know.
Maybe he's just not a character. I don't know, man, because maybe it's just Triple H gives him a little more of a push. I think Triple H almost sees a little bit of himself in the guy. Triple H loves those kind of dark, brooding, kind of mean characters, kind of like he was when he was wrestling. But it's just something about. I mean, we'll see with the street. I mean, Paul Ellering part of it. Not the Street Profits, the AOP. We'll see if a group can hold on to it. But I mean, that's for Bobby. But I mean, you got to going back to the chamber match. I mean, that was a hell of a match, dude.
I love the intensity that Kevin Owens is back to bringing, which is and me.
Did you see him just beating the hell out of the pod Logan Paul was in?
Yes.
Just Logan Paul drew the little things on there, and he just started smashing his head in.
Yep.
I mean, talk about a guy who is, I hate to say it, he's a guy who, of all those guys, he's probably got the least story going for him. But talk about still standing out right now. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, he's a made man after the Stone Cold match, right? But he's always.
I think he just lives his character. Yeah.
He just lives, and he lives it.
So, on top of that, too, let's kind of further some of the stories that happen. One thing, I'm happy that it's going to happen, and it kind of showed that it was going to happen during the chamber. But I'm not sure that that's a spot we all thought. What about LA Knight? It's obviously looking like it's LA Knight and AJ Styles at WrestleMania, which, side note, is going to be a quote unquote phenomenal match. But
our guy AJ Styles just flew 36 hours just to cost this guy the match. He had no other business being there.
No, I agree.
He 36. That's I saw something online, and what is that? That is ultimate player hater status right there. When you fly 36 hours just to hit somebody, got to give him credit. You know what? We all thought. What we all think? We all thought it was going to be LA Knight and Logan Paul for the U.S. title. Give our guy a title. They're not doing it, right? And I didn't like it because, again, I'm obsessed with championships, and there's guys I want to win. Almost feel they have to win championships. I guess that's just not what we're doing here. And you know what? I'll give them credit. I don't know. I guess we'll see. It'll be almost a test, so to speak. they went away from the crowning moment at WrestleMania for him and to further the better storyline, So
Yeah.
that's gonna be interesting how it does for LA Knight. He's still a guy who needs some build, right? He's close, but he's not a top guy yet. And a championship will go a long way, but winning a great rivalry and having a fantastic match at WrestleMania would also go a long way. So I guess we'll see what would be better.
Yeah, and I mean, you came out of it too, right? With Soda, it looks like it's going to be. I love the story that Logan Paul and KO are telling. They started from the press conference into the match, and Logan Paul, dude, I love him as a heel. I hate the fact that I enjoy him as much as I do, but I really enjoy Logan Paul. I think KO is just going to bring Logan Paul up to a whole nother level, and now you look at it, they've thrown Randy Orton in that too. So I mean, clearly we're looking at a triple threat, right? With KO, Randy
You think it's
Orton,
clear?
and
Everyone I've talked to thought it would be Randy and Logan.
no, it's definitely got KO involved. It's definitely got
Okay.
KO involved. I mean, look at most of the storytelling that was done throughout that match with Logan Paul was done with KO, right?
Fair. No, you're right. You're right.
It was all about those two. Randy was kind of just I wouldn't say an afterthought, but it kind of inserted himself into it. And then you got, Logan Paul getting pissed off that he got eliminated and ends up taking out Randy. So now Randy's got a reason to hate, right? So like it kind of sucked it in and got him all, into that. And then we go right back to Drew, who ultimately won the match. And what's hilarious, or not hilarious, but like Drew is there was a slow burn getting him to full on heel, but now he's just taking advantage of everything, right? He didn't I don't think he actually got an unassisted pin in that match, did he?
No,
Because
you're right.
he took out LA Knight because of AJ Styles, and then he took out Orton at the end because of Logan Paul. So I mean, and I think he had one other one there too, but
it's really cool. He's done a complete heel turn without actually ever doing anything bad. Besides the circumstances he's been in, he never, had a friend he just turned on, or he never
right.
Punched out a fan or an authority figure. He just got the people who were around him. He had legitimate grievances with, but he's done it in such a way where we just don't like him now.
He's just because he's become a master of manipulation, right? He somehow talked. The joke is that he kind of talked Cody into going after Roman, so that left his title open, right? And that was one thing, and he's just kind of weaseled his way into. It's funny to use the term "weaseled his way into" anything when you're talking about Drew McIntyre, because it's just such a huge and dominating figure, but like he intellectually got himself in that position and then took advantage of weaseling his way in through that match and ended up winning the match. Like, to me, it's shown such character depth on top of the badass that he already is.
I love his character work. He might be doing the best character work of anybody right now.
100%.
Just the first thing he does when he does his victory speech is the CM Punk crisscross applesauce. Come on, perfect. Perfect. Just going, I prayed for this. It's great. And even when Seth's face and told him, ignore the bloodline, let's just focus on me, because I like everything he's doing. It's fantastic. You can justify all of it, even though he's bad, right? Everything he's saying is right.
I agree.
What a great match he had, start to finish. How hot was Perth, Australia? This guy was sweating more than prime era Patrick Ewing. This guy was drenched. Geez, he had the whole match, and it
was very humid.
Oh, could you imagine? He earned it, man. I thought match of the night. Or you can make a case for the women's one too. And like you said, the fact that we got 3 matches out of it and a lot to talk about, fantastic.
Do you just I think what I'm loving about all of this right now is not only is the wrestling hot, but there's so much storytelling going on, but it's being done in a way where, and this is, I think you got to give the flowers to Triple H, right? Like all this is being done not only on the mic, not only in vignettes, but it's also being done through matches. Like, when's the last time we can honestly say, as a, from the WWE, that this much storytelling is going on during matches?
Through matches, and the stories are complementing and helping each other. You're always fond of saying how stories intersect with each other. They've never done it
Yeah.
better. Right
Oh
now, the
no, I agree.
Cody versus the Bloodline is like the undercurrent of the whole thing. It connects everything and everything, and you can feel it even in things that don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But it informs how Drew McIntyre is going about saving WrestleMania, how he doesn't want Seth Rollins to get too involved with that. It informs how Seth Rollins is trying to just make his way to WrestleMania and just hold on, be a part of it, and do what's right for once for him. It's great character work. And look, they've even found a way. CM Punk was their big acquisition in November. He's already hurt. They found a way to
Yeah.
keep his name involved and keep him somewhat involved. You could put CM Punk as the special guest referee for Seth versus Drew. It would be a genius
Please
move.
don't though. Really?
No, yes, but he because this is the first time he has a reason to screw both people. He hates them both.
God, I can't.
100% could do it.
I don't want
It
to
would
see that.
work. Why don't you
I'm
want
not
to see it?
saying it.
You know,
I'm not a Punk guy anymore, man. It's just I'm so soured on him. Like, yeah, it was kind of cool, and he's still playing the happy-go-lucky, and he's happy to be here, and this is
I
really
wish he
his.
wouldn't be happy-go-lucky anymore. But
I
dude,
don't see it.
he's a needle mover, dude. He gets people talking.
I agree, but
He
then
gets pe-
we talked about that storyline is also intertwined, but then you've got Seth that's kind of intertwined with the bloodline thing. You've got Drew that's intertwined with the bloodline thing, especially because they've helped him out recently. You've got man, it was just it like I said, what I love about everything that's going on right now is the multiple stories are all intertwined in some way, shape, or form. But they're not just intertwined just for the sake of being intertwined, they make sense. And that is what's really, really freaking cool right now. And it leads me to kind of think about too. We talked about everything that's happening in Elimination Chamber, but then this is all kind of bleeding into Monday Night Raw. But you had the Grayson Waller effect where you had Cody and Seth on there, right? And the big thing with Cody was, I've challenged The Rock. And, Cody's like, look, or Seth's like, look, I got your back because when you face a bloodline, it's never one-on-one, right? So, but where is this going with that too? Like, are we going to see Seth, Cody versus Rock, Roman? Where do we see it? There's no more pay-per-views on the way to WrestleMania. He did make the challenge before WrestleMania. Is this something we're going to see on a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown? Or, is
we're
it going
gonna
to
find
be...
out on Friday. We're gonna find out on Friday because The Rock will respond. Give
Cody's
The
going to be
Rock
there,
credit.
right?
He's got to be. Give The Rock credit
Yeah.
for being on the show. He's going to be in the next couple of Smack. The guy might appear more than Roman now. All of a sudden,
For now.
give him credit. Yeah, for now, but give him credit. That's going to inform a lot of what we're going to see. The Cody segment, both the Waller effect segment, that served its purpose. It wasn't jump off the page, but it got the guys there, and it gave us that challenge to The Rock. I thought the Monday Night Raw segment with Paul Heyman was beautiful.
Yeah.
You did more for the character of Cody Rhodes than all of this in one segment. You felt the desperation that he feels going up against these guys, and how the stakes are huge. And Paul Heyman with the two cell phones, one for
Yes.
one for The Rock and one for Roman.
I love that in 2024, Paul Heyman is still the cell phone guy.
Yes. And I love the subtle hint that Roman is still more important to him than The Rock because his iPhone Pro Max was Roman's phone. His regular iPhone 15 was for The Rock. So obviously he's not as invested. That subtle hint there, as you could tell. It's a $1,200 phone versus $800 phone. It's relevant.
I appreciate the fact that you know that.
I do.
I know why you know that, but it's fine.
Sure. But what a segment. And that I want to see what like that. I guess whenever Cody fights The Rock or how he fights it is going to be the next domino to fall, which is going to inform a lot of what everybody does coming up at
So
WrestleMania. Because
hear me out. Does this help or hurt Cody Rhodes if the ultimate heel and sneaky bastard of all heels, Seth Rollins, turns on Cody Rhodes and costs him his match at WrestleMania?
Does because because you now I know, and again, I'm a mark for him, but
Then you're going in Cody and Seth. Then you're going to Cody and Seth after Mania.
You've booked yourself in the corner where you almost have to have Cody win the belt at WrestleMania. I don't think you have other options. Just look again. It got people to boo The Rock and poo-poo a dream match. Everybody wanted The Rock versus Roman, right? And we as a group said no. We want to finish this first. You have at some point when you talk about finishing a story, or it's been a masterful build to this point. You've built a wrestler up to a certain point. You have to finish it at some point. You have to just end it. This would be like if you did Star Wars episodes 1 through 9 and then said, we're going to do 10, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. At some point, you lose people. And I think that's what happened. I think this
but let's play devil's advocate here. Okay. Let's not forget Cody Rhodes is also the same guy who booked himself into never having a world title shot again in AEW. What if Cody's story never gets finished? Because that's what Cody wants, because his dad's story never got finished. What if that's the real story? Is that he wants to be able to, and this is all him, what if he wants to just be able to go through his career just never having that moment like his dad didn't? And that's the story we're telling. That's the story he's telling at a massive level of a career. It's just he was just like his dad. He was never able to get there. What if that's the story we're telling?
Dusty still has 2 or 3 NWA championships to his name. They weren't long.
That's true. Yeah, but Cody had a couple. Didn't Cody hold the Ring of Honor title, a New Japan title? So he's had both titles before, right? But the one that's always eluded him and his father is the WWE title. What if that's
but I think if you saw a movie about that where a superhero of some sort stated his ultimate goal was to beat this villain, and the story it never did. At some point, you would get upset, be like, "Why did I just waste $20 to watch this movie and a bag of popcorn?"
I don't know, man. It keeps him as the uber babyface. It keeps him as the
it doesn't because when he booked himself out of championship belts at AEW, it ruined him. And you got to remember, before he became the number one babyface in the number one company, at the end of his run at AEW, he was getting booed out of the building.
Agreed.
Booed out of the building. Hated because when he booked himself out of the championship, he ended up going into what they called the Codyverse. His stuff was a whole side thing. It never mattered because he could never go too far. He just had his own little universe of people and stuff, and it just felt totally separate from what they were doing.
What if this is the story? What if this is the story and it's always meant to be that way?
And that's a bad story. And they made a mistake. They made a mistake. They made a critical error.
I don't think it is.
Who beats Roman? Someone has to beat this guy at some point.
I think that
does he die with the belt? Does he die with the belt?
He very well might.
No.
No, but think about this with Cody, right? Where's the money with Cody? The money with Cody's in the chase, man. If the story of trying to get there is the money. Once you get there, I'm sure Triple H and all his infinite wisdom will be able to figure out what to do, but really the money to me is in the chase with him.
Yes, and the money's in the chase, but guess what? You've gotten every dollar you can of it. If you have them back-to-back Rumble winners, back-to-back lost the belt at WrestleMania, no one's ever going to get invested into it again because we're never going to trust them to do it again.
But you know what? And I know this is probably not up your alley at all, but you think about I'm gonna equate this to NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt, the man in black, the one everybody loved and loved to hate. He went, God, I can't remember what the number is, but I want to say it was like 19 tries at the Daytona 500 before he finally got one. And there was a chance it was never going to happen. And when it did, it was that much better. So what if this whole thing is a chase and it's a long, long story, and we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 years before he finally gets what he feels like he's deserved or earned or owed or whatever it may be. And then you can get Roman past the Hogan mark. You got to get to SummerSlam to do that. If he loses the title now, he's never getting that Hogan mark, right? I'm just saying.
I don't care about the Hogan mark.
I would also be happy if Cody wins. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying, what if the story is not finishing the story?
Well, I think you would have a decent segment of the fan base, self included, that it would take away all the goodwill that you've built up just by doing that. Then you never should have had him win the Royal Rumble if that was what you wanted to do. You should never have gone that far. I've heard things saying that they had him win the Rumble, but they were going to find a way to delay that match for him to get this Rock match, Rock versus Roman. But the way they did it just felt so, like we just all turned our back on it. And now we've turned the Rock into a massive heel. He's a bigger heel than Roman now. We hate him more. Suddenly. I just think you have to do it, and I don't see it helping Roman. He's already feels diminished because he feels like second banana in his own group.
But again, I think first and foremost, I think that's intentional. Second of all, it's going to completely lead to Rock and Roman at some point. I don't know how it gets there, whether it's Rock goes back babyface, somehow Roman turns into babyface. Like, I don't know how it ends up. But like The Rock said, I'm along for the ride. I'm excited for it. But again,
if not Cody at Mania, then who beats Roman for this belt and when?
That's a great question. There's nobody poised or ready more than.
Is he born yet? I mean, is it a baby right now? It's. I just think you have it where this feels viable. This feels right. You can't just end 1,100, 1,200 day reign to anybody. And I think you've built this guy up for a year. Do
2
it.
years.
2 years. You've built.
Again,
it's been.
I know, man. Listen, I get it. And Tim just chimed in and called Steve for the win. I still think, and there's a potential that this could be, maybe the story is not finishing the story.
Have you ever enjoyed a non-finished story? Yeah. Did you ever read the Never-Ending Story when you were a kid? That book sucked, dude. And this would suck. Yeah. So,
okay. All right.
This is it.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm okay with your theory. I still like mine. I think not finishing the story is still the story. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I guess, I will agree with you that I don't think there's anybody right now that's poised the way Cody is to take the title off of Roman, because I can't think of anybody else on the roster right now that I would say, yep, that's the guy. And there's plenty of guys that could put on a great match with them. You could viably see them as a title holder, but to end this streak, to end this run, it's got to be over the top. And I think, to your point, you might be right, Steve-O. That is Cody. I don't know anybody else that is.
It's been the best build of a babyface that I can remember. I went from when I saw Cody in AEW back in 2021 I liked him, but I wasn't like yelling at people for booing him. I wasn't like, but they've built him up in a way where I have to see him win now. If I could go back in time to the AEW fans who were booing my guy, I would be ripping their signs down and getting you to leave my friend alone. They built him up that good.
Yeah, I just and Tim kind of read my mind here on the Facebook chat, but it's like, I think, like I said, and that's why I keep saying the story is maybe not finishing the story, because the money with Cody's in the chase, and then what do you do after that? Like, where do you go with Cody after that? Because clearly, if he wins the title, he's got to go to SmackDown. Now, who's your guy? Or is it Roman's got to somehow figure out a way to get back to it? Or, does that completely take off the table? Does The Rock screw Roman? And this whole thing was just a ploy. to get, Cody into the spot. But again, then Cody's got to have a viable opponent. Where do you go from there? And again, I have full faith in Triple H and that whole writing team because of what they've shown that is capable at this point. But I just don't know how far you go with Cody. I think the money is in the chase.
I think there's a ton of heel challengers who have just been languishing since with as Roman's been there, and no heel can look bigger than Roman. So now you'll finally have heels that can challenge a babyface. I think it flips the whole dynamic we've been seeing for a long time. It goes back to you can build guys up in a minute. Look at you can take monster heels like a Bronson Reed who can't do anything, but it's very easy to get those big guys to squash a lovable champion, and all of a sudden they're it. You can have a few. I mean, I'm not saying Cody's gonna have a 2-year reign to match this one, but
no,
I mean, give him a few months and let's see what he can do as champion. All I've ever heard is, oh, he's got to chase. He's chasing. What are they going to do with him? He can't. We haven't seen him as champion. Give him a shot. Give Cody a chance.
We really don't know. I mean, I think he's gonna have more of a John Cena-esque, ready to take on all challengers type thing. One person we haven't even talked about, and we're running out of time here at this point, but Gunther. What are they doing with that Intercontinental title? Is it going to be Sami Zayn?
I wanted to say
over Nakamura, but
that Judgment Day segment intrigued me so much because I love how ridiculous Dom's stepping up to Gunther. They built Gunther as his monster, and there's little Dominic, this little jerk, just saying it's going to be me to take it off of you. I think you could do.
The only thing I hope is, because I would absolutely love to see a Damian Priest Gunther match, but please don't let that be the cash in.
No, here's what. No cash in on anything but World Championships again. You cannot be. You can get it. You or me could get an Intercontinental, a U.S. title shot if we want to. They do open challenges for those things. Don't cash in on those belts ever again. Here's what you could do. I'm just saying.
All right.
You do Imperium versus Judgment Day, Dom, Finn, and Damian versus Gunther and Ludwig and Vinci. Winner take all. So if Imperium wins, those guys get the tag belts. If Judgment Day wins, Dom gets the IC title. Winner take all.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, I guess you could, in theory. Well, here's the thing with that though too. Is one, I would love that because I'd love to see the Judgment Day, walk out with a bunch of titles. But here's the catch with that is, although, you know what, Steve, you've intrigued me. You have absolutely intrigued me, because my thought was, how are you ever going to get that title off of Gunther? Well, you could do it in that scenario where Kaiser or
they eat the pin.
Vinci take the fall. They eat the pin, and now Gunther loses his title, and now he can focus on going after the world title. I like it, Steve. You know what? God damn it!
Book it.
You book it. Give them the thing.
I mean, shoot, I was booking it for Imperium to win it and get the tag belts on those guys. That's my first thought.
You know what?
Now it's even better.
I like your thought. I'd love to see that come to fruition. Last thing here, Tim chiming in again. Thanks for chiming in, Tim. Big news in the internet world right now is Tama Tonga is supposed to be heading to WWE, finally leaving New Japan after years and years. Does he fit in the bloodline somewhere? I don't know.
Is he Haku's son?
Yeah, I want to say it's adopted, or I can't remember the exact, but I don't know how he fits in, because I don't know if.
By the way, Haku/Meng, what a underappreciated guy that was. One of the best. Oh God, 100%. He was so legit.
Amazing.
I'd love to see Tama Tonga. I don't follow New Japan, but
I've seen highlights and I've watched some of his stuff. I've never, just like you, I'm not a huge New Japan guy. But I have seen some of his stuff, and he's an excellent worker, and I think he'll fit in nicely here.
Seems like a guy that would fit right in. Although I remember when Lord Tensai came from Japan, and he thought, oh, he's going to fit right in, and it was terrible. But that's not his fault. That was just a bad booking of the time.
Well, yeah.
So I don't. But
I mean,
Yeah, dude.
who doesn't miss a good Prince Albert? You know. I
Oh,
remember I remember the day when I finally figured out what that actually meant. I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh,
that's an
oh.
unfortunate Google search, my friend.
It is. You gotta be real careful. You gotta be real careful about the algorithms. Steve,
Yeah,
we've gone the hour. I think we're gonna kind of cut our losses here. I think an hour is right about that sweet spot, right? I mean, I could go on forever. Like, there's so much we haven't touched on. I think we've hit the highlights, but I did want to try out a little new thing.
go for it.
You want to go for it? All right,
Yeah,
let's do this. We're going to call this underrated, overrated.
go for it.
I'm going to give you a name. You're going to give me underrated or overrated and why. All right?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Born
We're going
ready.
to start off. You know what? I'm just going to go right for the jugular. I had someone in mind, but I'm going to go right for the jugular on this one. Hulk Hogan. Underrated, overrated.
Perfectly rated by the general wrestling casual fan, underrated by the internet community because people look at his maybe less than great match rate, work rate, and that he can't do a Hurricane Rana or something and hold it against him. The guy without Hulk Hogan, we aren't talking about this right now to some degree. He made it a sensation. Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
but he was also a product of his push and his build. To me, way overrated. Yes, I agree.
no,
He brought the mainstream in and he did all that, but that's where it stops. From an actual in-ring worker,
he's a
awful.
great
Like
in-ring
you look
worker.
at
Nobody can work the crowd like Hulk Hogan. It's not all just the moves
look
you
at
can
some of the
do.
WCW matches he had, man. It was so terrible. He was so slow and so terrible. And it's just, oh god,
You're looking at the wrong body of work. Look
I'm
at the
not.
moments he's given us against uh, WrestleMania 3. Look at him against the Mega Powers exploding. The first match of the Ultimate Warrior, not the WCW one. That just proved my point. The WrestleMania 6, where
Well, I think that proved my point.
dude, he is he deserves all the praise and everything. Was he a politician behind the scenes? I don't know. Probably.
Oh,
Was he always
100% he
doing right
was.
by the business versus for himself? No, but
No.
just the memories and the fever he created around wrestling. Yeah, you could say he was right place, right time, product of his personality. But somebody had to be in that spot. Somebody had to do it night in, night out, and just captivate people. I will never separate Hulk Hogan from the superhero like guy that just wowed me when I was 5 or 6 years old. And maybe that's a problem. I can't argue this point, but again, I'll still say from working a crowd. Look at him when he went up against The Rock, and never forget that match at 18 where Hogan was supposed to be the heel and Rock was the babyface, and they both knew it wasn't working and flipped it on a dime. You can't teach that. You
I
can't teach that presence of
agree,
mind.
but I think bringing it into the mainstream and making wrestling what it was, I will give him all the credit in the world for that. From an in-ring performer, you will never ever hear from me like Mount Rushmore of in-ring performers. Like, it was always throw some terrible punches, big boot, drop the leg that barely hit. Like, to me, the matches suck. Like, I loved him in the NWO. I think he'd have been a much better just, mouthpiece slash, you know, he's the guy. I don't think he should wrestle as much as he did. But like, just to me, I think as a performer, he's way overrated. Way overrated.
The only thing I'll say bad about Hulk Hogan, some of the WCW stuff was bad. His cardinal sin was the Starrcade match against Sting. I'll almost never forgive him for not giving Sting the moment. That should have that there's another look. You built up Sting for a year. He didn't get the job done and didn't look as convincing as you thought. That's what could happen with Cody Rhodes now if he doesn't get the job done against Roman. The build ends. That match was so bad it killed all the interest and the mystique about Sting. Hogan should have been more giving there. I do want to talk about Sting's retirement next time we talk. I know we don't talk AEW much. I do want to talk
Yep.
about that next week. Sting
All
means
right.
so much to me that I do want to get that in next week.
All right. I'm good with that.
But Hulk Hogan, underrated by folks like you, perfectly rated by the general public.
Okay. Steve, that was good. That was fun. I kind of threw that at you. It was a nice surprise. I appreciate you kind of playing along. I do. Also
You picked the right guy, because I could do a whole hour about how Hulk Hogan is.
See, what's funny is I was going to
hero.
go with somebody different. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going for the jugulars. The first time we're doing it, let's just hit it with a home run, right? So
perfect.
But
I can't wait to do it again. Our friend Ryan also texted me saying Hulk Hogan also gave us Brooke Hogan. I don't know what that means. I don't want to go too far.
I mean, that's fair. Also, if Ryan is paying attention to what we're doing here, he could have just put that in the chat. I would have acknowledged that on the air. You know what, Ryan? Acknowledge me. Acknowledge your tribal chief of Missing the Mark Wrestling. That is me. We should do that. Yes, it was Halloween Havoc, Tim. That I think it was when the lights went out or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but anyway,
the Hogan match with Warrior.
Yeah.
Havoc '98. Oh, I can't tell you how excited I was for that show as like a 13-year-old boy, and how upsetting I was. I was so excited so Sting fought Bret Hart, and they massacred my guy Sting, broke my heart. The Outsiders, Hall and Nash fought terrible. I don't know. Hogan Warrior, one of the worst matches of all time, and then finally we got Goldberg DDP, great match, and then my pay-per-view feed fell. I never saw it. I don't know. I heard it was great. I never saw it.
That was that was back in the day in the high schools. Our big thing in our neighborhood, like our whole neighborhood was into it, and we would like rotate whose house it was going to be at, and then we'd all just pitch in like $5, and we'd order pizza and bring snacks, and like that was the thing. Like I miss those days. That's why you and I got to start watching all the pay-per-views together, except for when they're at 5 a.m. So, but anyway, all right, Steve. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate this. I look forward to doing this next week again. So, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Missing the Mark Wrestling. Also on YouTube. I'll try to get these videos up on YouTube probably within a day or so. I'm hoping in the very near future that we're going to be able to go live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the things. We're going to see how that goes. Right now, we're just kind of sticking that. So you can also find us anywhere you get your podcast. So Missing the Mark Wrestling, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, like the podcast. I appreciate it. If you want to email us, give us ideas for the show, missingthemarkwrestling@gmail.com. But Steve-O, this was another great show. I look forward to next week. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time.